everyone a quick overview. We're excited to we have two cohorts here tonight. We have both cohort 18B, who is working on exiting the program here just any day now, just another week or two, and they will be graduating. And then we also have cohort 19A, which is about halfway through the program. So we're all excited that you could come here tonight. I have had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Young for some time as a coach, and also got to hear him speak at the ICF conference, the Converge conference this year, and was so impressed with the topic, and I thought this would just be a big benefit to our students to hear the topic. So we will be monitoring the chat and asking questions, or at least posing those questions, probably near the end. So he's going to be spending a good portion of his time kind of doing a lecture style on this topic. And then we will be able to open up for open Q&A. Right? So I just want to kind of turn the mic over to Dr. Young. I would really like for him to there are just so many accomplishments that he has. I had a hard time just picking and choosing. So I thought, as always in coaching, I'll allow the client, in this case, Dr. Young, to really share what is most important for us about his many accomplishments and how those are going to show up this evening. So, Dr. Young, if you'd like to take it over, we're happy to have you with us.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you, Stephen. It's an honor to be present. I'm just going to share a little about me. In the meantime, what you can do is go to drdevonyoung.com. So it's D like in Derek, Ivan, IVANYOUNG.com if you want to read about me or read my bio. But in short, this is what the touch points are. I am a Master Certified Coach, an ICF Master Certified Coach. I'm also a National Board Health and Wellness Certified Coach. And I'm part of the Forbes Coaches Council, which again, you guys can look up that. But tonight, what I hope to be is an agent of change for you, and what's in between the bookends of starting coaching and then being a seasoned master coach, and the way that you affect the lives of your clients. The subject tonight is accurate empathy. My suggestion is that you take notes. I don't use PowerPoints. In my view, anybody with doctor in front of their name should not need the crutch. And I'm not saying PowerPoints are a crutch, but they would be for me. My goal for you is to have the ability to take away from this lecture some meaningful tools that you can use on both yourself and your client. Here's what's really important. In coaching, there are so many methodologies. There are so many scaffolds and templates that often coaches become mechanistic rather than effective. What I mean by that is simply this. You learn that, okay, focus meaning outcome. Or you learn, okay, well, let's start and warm up the session, and then we're going to get a coaching agreement. Then we're going to ask powerful questions, and then we're going to close it down, and then we're going to summarize, and the client's going to come back. All of those things are true, but all those things are facts. Let me correct that. But the greater truth is, how can you be effective when that person who's paying their hard-earned money, who's coming to you in the very hope that what you say or do will prove transformational in their lives, what do you do? Well, the first thing is, I would like for you to learn the practice of what is the most important thing in a coaching session, and that is the first 3 minutes before that session starts. So right now, let's practice this. I want you, whatever you're doing, let's put your phone down. Let's close the other windows on your computer and be present. And I'm not asking you to do this because I want to control your life. I mean, I get it. You're an adult. This is a lecture. Nobody can see what you're doing, but they can see the results of what you have done. So in this session today, what I would like for you to do is practice a mindful technique. So right now, if you'd be so kind, I want you to close your eyes. I'm going to count to 4. When I count to 4, I want you to inhale as I count to 4. Then you're going to hold it when I do a 2 count. You're going to let all that air out as I count to 5. All right. So right now, eyes closed. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to do it again. Inhale slowly as I count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to do it again. Inhale slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2. Exhale slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you're going to do it on your own. Inhale. Hold it. Exhale. Now you're on your own. Do it one more time. All right. What we did just then is an act of neurochemistry. It's also you taking deliberate control of the moment and being able to become mindfully present in such a way that now your focus is here. It's not on what the dog is doing. It's not on what you're going to eat later. It's not on what you did yesterday, what you fear might happen tomorrow. Your focus is present. As a coach, the first thing that you must learn to do is be intentional and be intentionally present. And that's what we're going to do today while I teach you this technique that I've developed called accurate empathy. Again, it is called accurate empathy. Empathy is one of the things that is most misused. It's become almost a cliche when people say something about, you know what, I'm empathetic. Well, what the dickens does it mean when you say you're empathetic? You know, as we've looked at many situations, what we found is that people tend to take something, and though they don't intend to, like a term, attach it, change it into a billboard or a boilerplate, and at that point, it loses its value or it becomes so commonplace that people tend to lose value or respect for the very subject or the very belief that they tend to embrace or attempt to facilitate. And we as coaches are guilty of that. Empathy is not sympathy. Empathy is not pity. Empathy is not you feeling sorry for someone. Empathy is being mindfully present with the intent to be aware. I'm going to say it again. That's not Webster's version. That's not their definition. It's mine. Accurate empathy is you taking the time to understand that this client that has come to you for personal transformation, for awareness, for enlightenment, to become self-actualized is not just there because they don't have anything better to do. They're not there because they roll the dice. They were led to you. Now, here's the problem. Here's where this comes in. How in the dickens can you be accurately empathetic with someone else when you don't do that with yourself? Think about that for a minute. You have your own crap going on. You may be going through a divorce. You could be caring for a sick child. God forbid someone close to you is dying or just died, like a mother or a son or a daughter, even a pet that was your best friend. But like most people, we tend to put on our mask. Then we walk into the world, fake smile and all, acting like everything is okay. Everything's not okay. As a matter of fact, you're barely get together. And what makes this worse is you think somebody actually expects you to do that. But here's the real truth. Most people either don't care how you're doing or they just care why you're in front of them. And the attention that you think that you're being given by other people is really not there. And you know why it's not there? Because you're not giving the proper attention to yourself. So as a coach, how can you give someone else attention that you don't need, that you don't even give you? So right now, what I want you to do while you've got your pen and paper out is write down what's going on with you. Seriously, what's going on in your life right now, good or bad. I'm not saying it's always got to be something that sucks, but what is going on with your life right now? Do you have more bills than you have money? Are you struggling just trying to keep it together? Are you dealing with a health issue or a relational issue? What is going on in your world right now that seems to be so problematic, and your money can't make it go away, neither can your connections? In contrast to that, what's going on with you right now that nobody really knows about, at least nobody that can do something about it? How are you feeling? How do you feel about your life right now? You see, many problems, it's one thing when you have an obvious problem, right? But many problems are invisible. Your clients are coming in your office right now with problems can't nobody see, because you know what? They pulled up in the right car. They have on the right brand of clothing, and they are all smiles, but just like yourself, they have invisible problems. So write it down. What is it that you're dealing with that nobody knows? And to make it even worse, the people that need to care probably don't even care. Now you ask yourself, Dr. Young, why in the dickens would you take me down this lane? I thought this lecture was supposed to be something to help me and cheer me up. Well, here's the greater truth. Hopefully by the end of it, you will connect these dots. But if you don't take the time to think about these things with yourself, how can you effectively coach somebody else when you haven't been empathetic to you? So let's do that right now. Let's think about, what does self-empathy look like? Where does that begin and end? You know, how can you look at yourself without pity or even compassion? How can you look at yourself without feeling sorry for yourself? How can you look at yourself as a witness to your own life? What does it take for you to understand your own emotions, your thoughts and experiences, so that you can form a deeper connection with the very things that you are experiencing within yourself? You know, there's some types of empathy that I want you to think about. One of them is cognitive. I'm going to repeat that again, cognitive empathy. That's the ability for you to grasp and understand how you feel. And of course, I want you to externalize this later to someone else. How can you better get a grasp about how you're communicating inside your own head. And then there's emotional empathy. How can you be more attuned so that with yourself and other people, you can actually connect with yourself on an emotional level? And the third one is compassion. What does it take for you to understand your own situation, where you can be moved by your situation without the situation moving you? You see, as coaches, if the cognitive and the emotional and compassionate don't triangulate, then we have a problem. See, this incongruence, this cognitive dissonance will resonate with your client. Now, resonance and harmony are the same thing. It's like when you lack harmony, you have dissonance, right? Disharmony. And in order to be able to resonate with others, you have to first resonate with yourself. And see, in doing this, there's some dangers. As a coach, putting yourself in someone else's shoes may not always be a good thing. But taking a look at how those shoes are fitting their feet, how it affects their gait, their stance, and their walk, that is the ability to be an effective coach. But again, how can you do that accurately? Until you've stepped outside of yourself. And instead of being subjective, you become objective. Today, the purpose of this dialogue is threefold. My hope is that your humanity wakes up. My desire is that your curiosity about yourself comes forth. Because if this doesn't happen, you will have empathetic distress. And empathetic distress is the thing that takes place when you get into a situation with yourself where instead of deintegrating, you disintegrate or overintegrate, meaning that you become so embedded in the situation that now instead of being a catalyst toward resolution, you are the source of dissolution, and you now are more of a problem than something that can encourage your situation. The other part of empathetic distress is when you just shut down. Think about this. If you do not have the ability to deintegrate, and yes, that is a word, by the way, and let me give you a better example. Imagine a baby crying. It is 2 a.m. and that mother is tired as what? That poor woman has worked 2 jobs that day. Baby's crying. If she disintegrates, she goes into the room with the baby, and the baby's crying, she's crying, the baby's wet. Hell, she didn't pee on herself, she's wet too, right? That's disintegration. That's when the things just have, I can't take no more, right? And people are going to come to you like that. Over integration is when the woman goes in there and mad and cussing because she had to get up and shakes the baby, trying to say, will you just be quiet? Next thing you know, she is on the way to the hospital and the baby is suffering neurological trauma from shaken baby syndrome, right? Mom didn't intend to do that. But see, when we have empathetic distress, we either melt down or we burn something up. To deintegrate, in this example, is when the mother in this narrative can get up and do this and just be like, oh, Lord, I am so tired. And she picks up that infant, looks at her watch, and it's 2:30 in the morning. And she says, I get it. you know, I'm all you got. Come on. And she begins to either nurse that baby, change that baby, and she sits in that chair and rocks it, realizing that you didn't ask to be born. I didn't plan for you to wake up at 2 o'clock and you don't even know what time it is. And she does not get into a state of distress. In other words, she can address what's going on with the child. This other thing about empathy that you need to be concerned about, especially with accurate empathy, is learned helplessness. There will be times when you will have a client that comes to you, and by golly, here comes the conversation. You know what? I'm getting a divorce. I can't stand that woman, man. Or, you know what? I'm married. You know why I got my wedding ring on this hand? It's not on the wrong hand. I married the wrong damn man. I mean, you know that one, right? And because you've been through the same thing, now you go from being a coach to being codependent. The relationship now has morphed into something that it should not be, because the two of you are in harmony, but in a very dysfunctional way. And again, this is a danger. And you go, Dr. Young, well, why is it dangerous? Real simple, it's dangerous because now your ability to be objective has been transmorphed into you being subjective. Instead of you shining a light down the rabbit hole your client is going down, you've gone and gotten arm in arm. You're part of the lollipop guild and you're skipping down the rabbit hole with them. And these things are things that we have to learn to take care of with ourselves. The reason I started this off early with let's shut it down and let's just breathe and get present. You see, there is a power in being present with yourself. Because if you can't be present with your client, how in the heck are you going to be present? I mean, with yourself, pardon me. If you can't be present with yourself, how can you be present with your client? Now, accurate empathy necessitates action. It is a skill, but beyond it being a skill, it is a way of coaching. It is a way of showing up. Question for you. Think about your most problematic client. Ask yourself, what is it about this client that pushes my buttons? Is it something that's connected to the way they talk? Is it something that's connected to the way they look? Maybe it's their gender, their nationality, or even their race. Hell, it could be you're being bothered because of the generation that they're in. You figure this is a Gen Z, a Gen X, a Gen I don't know what, a baby boomer. You're old and outdated. Tell you something. Part of possessing the ability, the power to be accurately empathetic is to go back to that list again about, I asked you earlier to write down what's going on with you. I want you to make another column or another sheet of paper. Who are you? You see, we don't give much thought to that because we're always considering who people think we are. Or we're doing the opposite. We're looking at who people represent themselves as, or who they express themselves as being. But when is the last time you really took a good inventory on you? I require that anybody that sees me take the MBTI Form Q. That is the clinical version of the MBTI. But I don't stop there. I also have them do a deep dive on family history going back 3 generations. I also have them take what's called the Thomas Kilmann, which is how do you handle conflict. Heck, I even look at the validation systems. My boy got a hit book called The Love Languages, but Gary, to be honest, those are validation systems. And then look at triggers. Now, why is it important for you to take that deep of an inventory on yourself? Well, how would you know what your biases are unless you examine yourself to identify them. See, here's what shapes your biases. It starts with, when were you born? If you're in your 20s, you don't have the same belief and values and views as someone that's in their 40s, and you damn sure don't have much in common with somebody in their 60s. The things you're going through in life are remarkably different. And even, check this out, how you grew up and where. What was your socioeconomic status? Because if you grew up not wanting for anything, how can you understand an impoverished person's struggle? You may intellectualize it, but do you really get it? How much does your culture influence your view of other people? What part of the country or even the world are you from? What is your nationality? And what is your race? You see, we can't just label people anymore, can we? Because we can't label you. And when you have this depth of awareness about yourself, you will be able to extend that to other people. I know I can't finish this lecture today, but I just want to take it a couple of other places because this is a starting point. This is by no means the end. Our goal is to objectively look at ourselves with such a curiosity and an awareness, not just about who we are not, to be able to put the humanity back in, the compassion for self. And as you do this with yourself, you will be able to cast that light upon other people rather than cast your burden upon your coaching session. You cannot effectively coach someone else until you have first allowed you to coach yourself. One of the things that I love about the ICF and mentor coaching is we come in contact with this aspect of ourselves called the shadow. And the shadow is the part of you that shows up in somebody else and you say, "Ooh, I can't stand that." One thing I'm not gonna, well, I want to use a guy. I won't mention the name because I don't want to be political, but I'll just say that they made a whole lot of objects of him that floated in there in Europe. Okay. And when I think about this person, there's not much I agree with or like because of what the media or culture has shaped, or maybe even he's shaped. And it triggered my shadow because, see, I'm a person that speaks up about what I believe in. I'm also a person that understands the value of marketing and branding, and I try to use it in a way that brings about diversity and inclusion. I try to use it in a way that creates equity for people. And the people that support that vision, I am all behind them because I want to make people great again, right? Anyway, but the point I'm making is the same thing that triggers me about somebody else. My shadow is calling out saying, "Hey, that's the part of me that is probably my strength, but it's also my weakness." And you, as a coach, in this lecture at least, I hope what I've given you is the foundation for self exploration so you can look at your strengths and your weaknesses so that you can accept yourself for who you are and who you're not and begin the process. Because trust me, it would be another 2 hours if I go deep enough into you becoming self actualized, but you've got some source material now. And that is to, one, calm down and slow it down, to take the time to look at who you are and who you're not based on what is going on in your life, to learn how to triangulate yourself in such a way that you are not all logic and not all emotion, but you become this being that is so connected with yourself that you are now able to take yourself out of your way and use the tools, these little basic tools about cognition and emotion, just to be aware to the degree that you are mindfully present and alive with yourself. And when you can do that, you can do that with your clients. So with that stated, I set the time limit. I don't want to go over. We're at about 25 minutes. I would like to take some questions from some of you, and hopefully we can help you clear up some blind spots in your life or in your practice. And at this point, we're open for questions. Stephen and Teresa are going to moderate the questions